Hello friends, today I have one question on my mind, and that is, are wood chips really that good at suppressing weeds? This is going to be a quick video because in my opinion the answer is an overwhelming and resounding yes. Here we are in the very first frame and you're seeing thistleweed all around me. This is the worst part of my whole property when it comes to weeds. I have had this like endemic super thistleweed problem year after year after year, and this year it is at most 15% of what it has been in the past. Let me pick you up and walk you around and show you what I mean. So when we back out, you can see they're here, but they're not too dense. When you actually step back and look at it, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, they're just big plants. For the rest of the garden, it's nothing. Look at, let's just go down an aisle. Nothing here. I mean, this whole section used to just be full of thistleweeds. It's the same when you come down here. Oh, looks like we got a little one growing right there. Same when you go down here and over here and all around. And there are, okay, here, look at that. There's one sticking out. There are a couple reasons for this, and I'm going to give you a few examples. First off, the depth of the wood chips that I'm using is pretty deep in some places. So the soil that I use for all of these raised beds is native, and I've amended it, but it all came from between each of the beds. So I dug down and down and down and down, and this is kind of hard to do without a shovel, but to give you a feel, I mean, this is all wood chip that's coming up. I want to say this particular area in between all of these beds, this goes down at least 6 inches. With 6 inches of coverage, it's pretty hard for anything to get a steady footing, even those thistleweeds that have such ridiculously deep taproots. Later on when we're in the side garden, I'll show you another technique that I use, but I wanted to show you that it doesn't have to be super thick in order to suppress weeds. Around here, we got a couple weeds, like there's one coming in and there's another one here. The mulch in this section is probably no more than 2 or 3 inches, and I did that kind of on purpose because I've got raspberries growing all along the hedge, and the raspberry shoots can pop up without a problem. But wood chips are good for another reason when it comes to weed suppression. Over here, I've got some creeping Charlie that is creeping in, even though these purple flowers are actually pretty beautiful. But wood chips are super easy to clean up, especially with creeping Charlie, because they just set down their roots right on the top. And the wood chips are so loose that you can just pull this right up and stop it from advancing. Yeah, I mean, since I've been using wood chips, I don't need to use any sort of chemicals in the garden to get rid of unwanted weeds or anything else. I mean, look at that. Look how easy that was. And I pull away the mulch. There's a couple that I missed. Otherwise, this root system is completely taken care of in just a few moments. And look, there's a healthy insect there, helping things decompose naturally. Kind of disgusting, but mostly beautiful. Hey, I want to show you some more reasons why I think wood chips are great. Get over there. Aside from the weed suppression, here I just dug out some raspberries for a friend earlier, and you can see this is an area of relatively shallow mulching, and the soil underneath is just really beautiful. Look at this layer. These layers of soil. You can see the composting is happening from the wood chips going down into what otherwise would be very tough clay. This is now super easy to plant in, and it makes just for a wonderful medium to grow. Prior to using wood chips, there's no way I would have been able to grow any sort of root vegetables, and now I am. I want to take you into the side yard to show you something. Oh, you know, I use wood chips over here These are just boxes that I built around our small trees. They were bare root trees planted from maybe 2.5, 3 foot whips 3 summers ago, and now they're really doing very nicely. Like this peach, for example, is pushing 7 feet tall. But take a look. No weeds. I've got a little bit of grass growing in there, but nothing that is competing with the tree. It's so nice. There is a downside to all of this. As I sneak to the back, you see this giant dead spot? When I had my wood chips delivered, that's where they were. And even though I took care of them very quickly and raked it as thin as I could and reseeded, it's having a tough time coming back. So, do wood chips do a good job at taking care of weeds? Yes, but they do an even better job of suppressing grass. Let me show you something. If you're trying to get rid of these kind of green things, I hesitate to call them weeds. I mean, this is just essentially clover, and these are really shallow rooted and they tend to grow along the top. They're just hard for me to pick up. I suppose I could probably rake them, but here I've got a very, very, very shallow level of wood chips, so it's easier for weeds to grow. But essentially, as we go along, I mean, check this out. Pretty much weed free. Everything that's growing, oh, there's a weed. Everything that's growing here, I want to grow. You know, we got different lilies and myrtle and pachysandra and all that good stuff. Here's part of my lovely backyard. I'm going to take you over to this side. It's the end of May 2019. We've had lots and lots and lots and lots of rain, and this is all that's come up for weeds. This is about the worst one. It's a dandelion. And just to give you some example, my backyard over the last years has just gotten terrible. I mean, creeping Charlie, dandelions, weeds upon weeds upon weeds. Our ultimate goal for the backyard in a couple years is to till this up and plant micro clover for a lot of different reasons. Anyways, I wanted to show you, let's get you back down to the ground. Over here, in addition to laying down the mulch thick, I also did layers of cardboard and newspaper. Here we go, we can see some cardboard decomposing. Let's take a look at that. Check it out. Gives you an idea of how thick we put it down, but then also cardboard. This was a great way to get rid of boxes. I mean, in this day and age, if you're like us, you get a lot of things delivered by Amazon, and that is a lot of cardboard to break up and recycle and get rid of. And we had a baby last year, so we had even more boxes for things. And if you're doing some natural gardening and you don't want to use chemicals for your weed prevention, what better way to reuse this cardboard than to just put it down. It suffocates the stuff that's growing underneath it. You could use this just to like kill grass and lay down a walking path if you want, not just the weeds. Suffocates it, you can put your mulch on top, it creates a nice bed, and in time, quick time, this cardboard decomposes naturally and feeds the ground. Isn't that neat? Let me cover up this big old hole now. Oh, and additionally, animals can't burrow underneath that and plant their seeds. They can plant them on top of the cardboard, but they can't underneath. Now, this is not a foolproof method for all things. Like, look at these lilies, for example. We wanted them to grow, so I don't think I put down a lot of cover underneath there. Maybe it was some thin newspaper, not cardboard. So if you know you've got some native species that are going to come up but you still want to do mulching, that could be an option, because these, with their super deep roots, will puncture right through any sort of thin, wet newspaper and such. But yeah, there you have it. So I know this has been a really strange video from my normal ones as far as the camera technique and such has been concerned, but I was just about to pull those thistles, and I thought, you know, compared to every other year I have ever gardened, before we put down the wood chips last year, this is astronomically better than I have ever had it. And if you're even on the fence slightly about should you do wood chips or not, I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. They can be costly if you're buying them from some sort of supplier that does mulch and rocks and wood chips and stuff like that, but I recommend making friends with an arborist. I got 25 yards of wood chips, all the wood chips that I use for everything that you've seen today, for free, because in our area they have to pay to dispose of those at a dump. So if you make a friend, they'll dump them on your lawn for you, and it's pretty great. He got a lot of beer in exchange, you know, because that's just what you do for a guy that doesn't want anything, but anyways, it was a nice gesture. There are also services like Chip Drop, which, depending on where you live in the United States, you can have mixed success with. When I had this idea of doing wood chips last year, Chip Drop is what I signed up for initially, and nothing came for months. So I had some other tree work done, and I made friends with my arborist, and that is the end of that story. So if the question that began this was, are wood chips really good at weed suppression? The answer is a resounding yes. Happy gardening.